Hey, what's up YouTube? This will probably be a lengthy video because chapter 13 drops in a couple days. And I know I haven't really been uploading, but I've been going through a lot. I'm not going to go into the specifics, but I'm just going through life and I'm sure you are too. But I know I'm going to take it upon myself to put these videos out because I really want to be a Boruto/Naruto YouTuber. So like I said, this is going to be a lengthy video. We're going to go over chapter 12, but also some of my other thoughts regarding the series. And I can't think of a better place to start than the Shinju themselves. So starting off, I want to go over the Shinju and their role going forward in the story. The Shinju only recently gained their sentience and haven't been operating that long. Over my vacation, I played Naruto Ninja Storm Connections, and I'm sure we can draw parallels from that game and Two Blue Vortex. At least I can. And I played another game as well, and that's where I want to go with the start of this video. So if you saw my thumbnail, you saw the weird gelatinous organism on it, and I compared it to the Shinju. These weird gelatinous organisms are from the video game Metroid Dread. However, they were originally in the GBA game Metroid Fusion. GBA standing for Game Boy Advance for those who are unfamiliar. But anyways, the weird gelatinous organisms referring to are called the X-parasites. The X-parasites are species of parasitic organisms fought by Samus in Metroid Fusion and Metroid Dread respectively. They invade a host's body and absorb the DNA and memories of the host before attaching themselves to the creature's nervous system and killing it, enabling the parasite to mimic its appearance. Mimicking appearances sounds a lot like the Shinju, because as we know, some of the Shinju we've seen in the story have taken on forms mimicking the appearances of some of the characters we've come to know. Hidari mimicking Sasuke's appearance, for example, and also retaining some of Sasuke's abilities like the Chidori. Playing through both Metroid Fusion and Metroid Dread respectively, I've picked up on a lot of ideas and formulated a lot of theories regarding Boruto from some of the plot points in these games. For one, Metroid is a sci-fi gaming experience that takes place in the depths of space, but the Boruto series is going the Dragon Ball route, and the power levels will eventually become universal as the story goes on. The Shinju and Otsutsuki both most likely come from the depths of space, and from one of Kaguya's explanations, she says she came from a land far, far away. We still don't have a lot of lore regarding the Otsutsuki, or the Shinju for that matter, but from what we know, they're from the depths of space. The X-parasites I was referring to are able to assimilate both the DNA and knowledge of other life forms, as well as incorporate those features when they take on new hosts. And their single-minded drive to consume and spread leaves them a threat to all other life in the cosmos, making it very urgent to eradicate them. This explanation sounds exactly like what the Shinju have become. I do believe as Two Blue Vortex goes on, the Shinju will eventually evolve to a point to where not cold, but if the Shinju become a peerless existence like Ishiki named, then the Shinju will most definitely want to chase universal domination. So I really like Nintendo games, and I actually found out while I was making this video that the Metroid franchise actually has a manga. The Metroid manga reveals that the Chozo first discovered and named the X-parasites on planet SR-388. The Chozo are a race of bird-like entities that appear in the Metroid franchise. But this video isn't on the Chozo, it's more so on the X-parasites and the Metroids. So the Chozo, in order to combat the X when they were rapidly multiplying, the Chozo experimented on creating a biological weapon. These weapons would become the Metroids that we know from the gaming franchise today. So to eventually combat the X-parasites, the Chozo eventually released the destructive Metroids into the SR-388 environment, where they became the X's predators. Though the Chozo succeeded in creating a check to stop the X's growth, they also created very antagonistic entities, ready to be exploited by the space pirates in Metroid and the Galactic Federation alike. I know Metroid doesn't have anything to do with Boruto, but I want you to keep listening to my explanation because you'll know where I'll go from it. So, in the prologue for Metroid Fusion, while serving as a bodyguard for researchers of the BSL station on planet SR-388, Samus is infected by an X mimicking a Horneroid, a type of alien life form in the Metroid series. Samus was okay at first, but unknown to her, the X multiplied rapidly in her nervous system, and during her return to the BSL station, Samus lost consciousness. And just before her gunship crashed into her asteroid belt, the security system automatically ejected Samus in an escape pod, which is recovered by the BSL research station. The X remained in Samus' nervous system, and the only way she was saved was from an experimental anti-X vaccine that was made from strands of Metroid DNA. As a result of the vaccine, all the X in Samus are destroyed, and Samus becomes immune to future X infestation. So basically, since Samus used the anti-X vaccine which had Metroid DNA attached to it, Samus essentially becomes part Metroid, but she also retains some of the Metroid side effect, which is the Metroid's vulnerability to cold environments, which was an unexpected effect of the vaccine, but nonetheless Samus survived. Metroid Fusion is a great game. I recommend it to anybody, especially anybody in the Boruto and Naruto community, because in my opinion, Metroid games are a lot like being a ninja. By that, I mean you have to be very stealthy in Metroid games, and as a ninja, you have to be stealthy as well. A great example of stealthiness in Metroid that I can think of is in Metroid Dread, when you have to dodge the enemies to get around the map. In Metroid Dread, your computer surmises that even at your suit's full power, you wouldn't be able to destroy your enemy. In game, you're only able to destroy an enemy with the Omega Blaster after you have acquired it. But while you don't have access to the Omega Blaster immediately, in the interim, you have to get around using the ability Phantom Cloak. The Aeon ability Phantom Cloak basically lets you walk around unnoticed, basically invisible. But like I said, I don't want this to be a Metroid video, but I want it to be a Boruto-centered video. So getting to the big reason why I wanted to connect Metroid and Boruto respectively is because both Samus Aran and Boruto Uzumaki have both become new entities in their respective franchises. In Metroid Dread, Samus becomes a Metroid, and in the Boruto franchise, Boruto becomes an Otsutsuki. And though both their stories aren't done yet, they both have a lot of similarities. The biggest one that I see is being both characters had a near-death experience and to save their lives had to be converted into new entities, the Metroids and Otsutsuki respectively. But like I was saying earlier, what really caught my eye with making this video was the similarities between the Shinju and the X-parasites. The X-parasites aren't a simple type of parasite. Their parasitic nature is a means for them to copy the genetic material of their victim, which then allows them to transform into replicas of these creatures, or other humans for that matter. And that sounds like a lot what the Shinju are about to do in Boruto. Chapter 13 of Two Blue Vortex does drop in a few days, and I'm already aware of some of the spoilers and everything. I'm not going to go into the spoilers or anything about Chapter 13 in this video, but I do want to say that I did see that Kashin Koji said that there were going to be at least 400 Shinju. And that means that the Shinju are going to eventually and rapidly multiply like the X-parasites. But we'll talk about Chapter 13 in my next video. Right now we need to get into Chapter 12, which is titled Thorn Soul Bulb. And I know you guys have already read Chapter 12 because Chapter 13 literally drops in a couple of days. So I'm only going to highlight the main points of this chapter that really caught my eye. So as we know, Boruto did manage to take out Hidari. However, I knew Boruto wasn't about to save Sasuke this early in the story that fast. At the end of the chapter, Jura ended up sniping Boruto and taking the Thorn Soul Bulb. And the big question in this chapter was how the heck Kashin Koji even knew about the Thorn Soul Bulbs in the first place. But if you've read the Chapter 13 spoilers, you already know already, so don't spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. I had made a poll a couple weeks ago, but it was going over who would be the one to devour Jura's Thorn Soul when the time came. And more of you guys leaned more towards Code, but honestly, I could see either Code or Kawaki being the one to eat Jura's Thorn Soul. We have to let the story pan out a little more first, but we can say for certain that there will eventually be a Jura and Kawaki showdown, because Jura states in this chapter that Boruto is too dangerous, and that he will hunt Kawaki as otsutsuki fodder to power up against Boruto. Another thing that caught my eye was Konohamaru's development of a new Rasengan, the Rasen Barrier. So while a lot of people do clown Konohamaru, this was actually a good jutsu. And it shows he's not completely useless and trash like how everybody makes him out to be. And speaking of the Rasengan, we learned in this chapter that the Uzuhiko Boruto used earlier in the story wasn't even at full power. Base Boruto basically walked through that whole battle and didn't even hit Code with his full power, Rasengan Uzuhiko. So that is a huge feat. And even in this chapter, the Rasengan Uzuhiko didn't hit Hidari at full power, more like only about 70 or 80% if I had to guess. But when Hidari was struck by the Uzuhiko, it reminded me when Naruto hit Kakuzu with the Rasen Shuriken. Or even when Sage Naruto threw one of the Rasen Shuriken at one of the passive pain, because like Hidari, he was ripped to shreds. And while Boruto did defeat Hidari, Kawaki was actually the one who finished him off. And Sarada was also shown to have picked up the Chidori stream, which I liked a lot. But like the title implies, the big thing in this chapter was the new concept Thorn Soul bulbs. To me, I think they're a lot like chakra fruits, because Boruto says that they'll need the Thorn Soul bulb to save Sasuke. And like I said earlier, Jura does end up sniping Boruto and taking the Thorn Soul bulb. He snipes Sarada too for trying to pick it up. But Jura literally watched the whole fight between Hidari, Sarada, and Boruto without even moving. And even Delta was looking at him crazy like, what the heck are you doing, dude? But for Jura to snipe Boruto at such a distance, like the village wasn't even in sight. But overall, chapter 12 was a good chapter. It was more action-packed than anything. Now, I usually would go over my thoughts about what I want to happen next chapter, but like I said earlier, the next chapter, chapter 13, already leaked. So I can't really say like what I want to happen since I already kind of know what's going to happen. But I do want to slightly divert from the chapter back to gaming for a second. So my vacation was a little while ago. And like I said, I did play Metroid Dread, but I also played a lot of Storm Connections. And let me tell you guys, I really enjoyed the story mode. And I believe even parts of the story could hint at future plot points later on in Two Blue Vortex. If you go out and ask anybody, I'm pretty sure they'll tell you that Storm Connections is trash. And while I'll be honest, games today aren't as good as games when I was younger, at least in my opinion. But I can definitely appreciate some of the elements they implemented in Naruto Next Generations. So for those of you guys who haven't played Naruto Boruto Storm Connections, just know that Toneri actually made an appearance in the game. Boruto and the ninja world go up against a new organization who go by the name of Zero, that are led by two characters who are named Mers and Nanashi. Nanashi, whose real name is actually Hikari. But what's cool about Mers is the fact that he's a ninja from the Rain Village who worships pain, and also had a synthetic or ninja tool Sharingan, which enabled him to use the Susanoo, which you see in the game trailer and in the game. But what really caught my eye about the game when playing it was the fact that when you were going up against Zero as Boruto, you had to get these things in the game that were called Kisaki. And I'm not going to spoil the whole game for you guys, because if you guys are gamers like me, then I want you to enjoy the game story yourself. But basically, to get these Kisaki that I'm telling you about, Boruto had to go back into Naruto's past and see what he went through. And I know you're probably asking yourself, How did Boruto go back into Naruto's past? That doesn't make any sense. But it's all thanks to Toneri, who used his otsutsuki powers to enable Boruto to travel back in time to relive some of Naruto's battles and to see what Naruto went through in his lifetime. This game also does a good job strengthening the connection between Boruto and Naruto. Because as we know, when the anime first started and when Boruto was still kinda a kid, he and Naruto didn't really get along too much, but they eventually started getting along as the series progressed. I feel like time travel is going to be a big step moving forward in Two Blue Vortex, and that's evident by the fact that in part 1 in Boruto, there was a time skip arc where Boruto and Sasuke went back in time, met with Jiraiya and saved young Naruto, and also battled Urashiki Otsutsuki. And once again, if you saw the Chapter 13 spoilers, then I'm even sure you can say my claim has some merit because of everything that happened. But I had a feeling the series was going this way for a while now, and I'm glad to see that it's actually some confirmation that it's coming true. And getting back to Chapter 12, I was really interested in how Kashin Koji already knew what the Thorn Soul bulb was. Now, the spoilers from Chapter 13 obviously give us this answer, but I was pondering this for a while and came up with so many theories. And while those would be fun to talk about and all, now that we actually know what's going to happen, there's no point in speculating what could happen. Rather, we need to go off the information that we are going to be presented with and that's actually factual, and then form our opinions from there. But even saying that, as of now, the entire series of Two Blue Vortex is still an enigma, and there are questions upon questions, as Jura even stated. So we simply just have to take the series slow and just formulate our opinions as we constantly get new information. And since Jura sniped Boruto when he was down this chapter, I definitely thought Kawaki would think this is his chance to get rid of Boruto entirely. Because as we know, Kawaki isn't above playing unfair to eventually get his desired outcome. And as we know, Boruto is the main character, so he isn't actually about to die. Or is he? 13, or Chapter 13, that's going to really be a banger, because I can't stop thinking about the spoilers. It's only a couple of days, so you guys will see it eventually. But man, it's just so much new lore. It's just incredible. But getting back to my topic earlier, aside from the chapter review, the X-parasites are actually way more dangerous than you know. So going back to what I was saying earlier, the extreme danger of the X-parasites is what led the ancient Chozo race to design the Metroid species, which actually kind of kickstart the Metroid series as we know it. But as far as in the Metroid universe, I'm pretty sure they learned about the X-parasites in the game Metroid Fusion after Samus eradicated the Metroids on their homeworld, SR-388. In the second Metroid game. The X-parasites are voracious, and once they locate their prey, they infect the organism's nervous system and start reproducing at an exponential rate, which they go on to consume the host's soft tissue within seconds. And it's during this process that the X absorb their DNA and memories within their victim, allowing them to replicate it further their species' existence, which is essentially what the Shinju are kind of doing in Boruto Two Blue Vortex. In Metroid Fusion, when Samus got infected, the X didn't appear to have an immediate effect, and she was unaware of their deadly nature. And later on, when it infested her central nervous system, she slipped into a coma and nearly died. And like I said, she was only able to survive after being administered the vaccine Metroid. But even though Samus was able to survive, the X was still able to acquire her genetic and mimetic information, producing the SAX, or Samus X. And Samus X is the main enemy of Metroid Fusion. She is a parasite that originally infected the power suit that Samus wears. The Galactic Federation, who was doing surgery on Samus, who gave her the vaccine to cure her, has surgically removed infected portions of her power suit and sent the pieces to the space station. And once there, the X inside the infected suit parts seemingly combined and transformed into the copy of Samus in her standard suit. Having copied everything in Samus's power suit and to a lesser extent the DNA from Samus herself, Samus X is near a perfect duplicate of Samus herself. The only notable difference between Samus and the actual Samus is that Samus X has blank eyes behind the visor from the power suit she's wearing. But as of this recording, both Samus Aran and Boruto Uzumaki's fates have yet to be determined. Their stories aren't done being written, so I can't say what's going to happen in the future from now. But in the Metroid franchise, like the relationship between the X-parasites and the Metroid, I believe that same connection is shared between the Shinju and the Otsutsuki in the Boruto/Naruto franchise. From what we know so far, in the Metroid franchise, the X-parasites are the prey of the Metroid, meaning the Metroids naturally hunt the X-parasites. Could the Otsutsuki naturally hunt the Jubi, or the Ten Tails rather? Or is the Ten Tails just some powerful essence from beyond our imagination that the Otsutsuki just learned to utilize, taking the Ten Tails' power and using it for their own, or as their own? I literally can't wait for the lore regarding the Otsutsuki and the Ten Tails regarding their relationship. I've always wondered if the Otsutsuki and the Ten Tails relationship is a symbiotic relationship. I came to that conclusion because in Naruto Shippuden we learned that Kaguya eventually merged with the Ten Tails, meaning an Otsutsuki and a Ten Tails entity combined and formed one being. Will we see that again in Two Blue Vortex? I can't say for certain, but there's a high, and I mean a high probability for that. The probability is so high because of the Thorn Soul bulbs that we were introduced to in Chapter 12. So I want to ask you viewers, who do you honestly think would benefit more from a Thorn Soul bulb? Code or Kawaki? Because at this point I can see either of them devouring a Thorn Soul bulb later down the line. And from those Boruto Two Blue Vortex Chapter 13 spoilers, there should be plenty of them to go around, if you've seen them. Code once again looked like the clown and retreated once the Shinju made their appearance. Honestly, what is next for Code? He could definitely eat a Thorn Soul bulb or consume a Thorn Soul bulb, however you absorb it into your essence and get a power up. That would make Code very formidable. But the same could go for Kawaki. Kawaki could definitely benefit from that, because eating a Thorn Soul bulb, he would probably be on par, if not surpassing Boruto in power. There's a lot of things I really want to say, but I want to wait until my next video to really discuss it. Or really rather until Boruto Two Blue Vortex Chapter 13 is out, so I can fully just unleash everything in one video, because I have a lot I want to give to you guys. But as of now, I can definitely say the Shinju are definitely the worst possible outcome. As a kid, I played Metroid Fusion when I was about 6 or 7, and the feeling I'm having now is a lot similar to the feeling I had back then. As far as all the Metroid games in the franchise, I've beaten the first and second Metroid. However, I've never completed Super Metroid. That's on my bucket list. And because there's so many ROM hacks of Super Metroid, there's so many ways to complete it. But I'll complete it in one way eventually. Probably the original way. As far as Metroid Prime, I've never really been into first-person shooters. I've always liked the Metroid side-scrollers. A lot of people said Metroid Other M was really bad, but I really liked it just because it was a side-scroller and it was first-person shooter when you needed it to be. A very underrated game on the Wii. I suggest you check it out. But going off that, aside from Super Metroid and Metroid Prime, I've essentially beaten every other Metroid game. and none of the enemies even compare to the X-parasites. To date, Metroid Fusion is definitely my favorite of the franchise, even though I really enjoy Metroid Dread. It basically seemed like a Naruto game with the stealth and the stuff you had to do. You had to basically act like a ninja because you weren't at full power, but going through the game, you'd constantly get your abilities back, and eventually you do come at full power, but even then, you're still not a match for the enemies, even though the enemies are already taken care of at that point. But aside from that, all the Metroid games are really good, and like I said, I'm gonna eventually beat Super Metroid. But to end out the video, I really wanted to kind of talk about Shibai Otsutsuki. So unlike Naruto, well, the Naruto manga, the Boruto manga is monthly instead of weekly. So a lot of content creators can only go off of so much information we're presented with in the manga. But I just feel like some fans think some of the things like other content creators say, just everything is related to Shibai Otsutsuki nowadays. And that's not really true. Just because even though we've known, like we've gotten lore about Shibai, and just like that he exists and everything, there's not too much of him we can go off of. He's obviously the mightiest Otsutsuki of them all from what we've known so far. But Shibai himself doesn't have any feats, and we only have the Kara cyborgs to go off of his power, because Amado modified each of the Kara cyborgs with Shibai cells, which inherently gave all of them one of his abilities. And going off of that, I will have another video in the works with something regarding that topic. But back to what I was saying, like I said, Shibai has no actual feats yet until we actually see him on screen or see a flashback of his backstory and actions. Until further notice, if you actually need a power level or bar to scale the Boruto series, no one has surpassed Ishiki Otsutsuki in his nerf form as of yet. Now, like I said, you could argue Damon or Jura, but nothing in the lore or Two Blue Vortex or Boruto has stated that Damon or Jura has surpassed Ishiki in strength. This is a level of power I think we're going to have to work up a little towards to get to, even in Two Blue Vortex. But I'm sure we're going to pass that cliff eventually. I mean, it's almost certainly. And there are still many questions that need to be answered about Shibai Otsutsuki and what happened in his lifetime and how he even became a corpse and ascended in the first place. From Amado's explanation, I can understand that he ascended after eating so many chakra fruits. But why did it just... How did it just happen just like recently? If I'm not mistaken, Shibai ascended like around the time Akebi died and right around the time Boruto was born. That's what it was said. I believe it was chapter 75 or 76. I don't really remember. I haven't read it in a while. But it all just seems too convenient, and I can definitely say Amado is still hiding a thing or two. Momoshiki was very surprised that Sasuke ended up helping Boruto, despite Sasuke telling Boruto that he doesn't trust him and that he's only agreeing to help him because of Sarada. Amado is doing the same thing with Kawaki. Amado knows that Omnipotence has switched Boruto and Kawaki, so he now thinks Boruto is Kawaki and Kawaki is Boruto. However, he can see that he modified Kawaki's body himself, because an artist always leaves some kind of print of their artwork, or Amado's Ninja Tech Cyborg in this case. So knowing this, even though Amado thinks Kawaki is Boruto, Amado will still blindly follow Kawaki just because he knows that Kawaki is the cyborg that he modified. And plus, Kawaki has Akebi's DNA or data inside his karma seal. And Kawaki is eventually supposed to place this karma seal onto Delta. And I have a whole new video I want to go into discussing that topic. Because especially after the chapter 13 spoilers, it's inevitable. But I really want to know from you guys, what are you expecting next chapter? Once again, I ask, who do you think deserves Jura's Thorn Soul bulb? Code or Kawaki? And also, if you did see the spoilers and you're waiting for Chapter 13, stick around because I will be dropping a chapter review and another video after that going over what I was talking about in this video. So stick around and definitely subscribe if you're new. To my subs who have stuck around, I'm very sorry that I haven't really been uploading. I've just been dealing with life and just been working a lot and just dealing with a lot of new things. But like I always say, I will make it a priority to get these videos out because like I always said, this is something I've really wanted to do for a long time. And I always do check out the other Boruto/Naruto content creator stuff and their chapter reviews. Naruto is just a series I've always loved, and I definitely will keep putting out the Boruto reviews when I can, and also dropping content. But I'm letting you guys know now, after my next few videos, I will be dropping a lot more shorts. Not because I want to get away from making long videos, but I only have 3 shorts as of this recording. And I have a lot of stuff I really want to tell you guys, but I can't just put it all in one video. So I will be making a lot of shorts and just making it easier to convey my thoughts out to you guys. To all my new and old subs, stick around because there's definitely new content coming. I have so much about the Naruto series I can share with you guys. I think I could go on for years. I know that sounds crazy, but I really do like the series that much to where I can just think of anything to talk about at the drop of a hat. But this is where I'm going to end this video off, you guys. Leave a comment and tell me what you guys thought of the video and what you guys want going forward on the channel and what you guys think is going to happen in the future of Boruto Two Blue Vortex. See you in the next video, guys. Later.
俺は忍びだ。